Hey everyone, welcome back to JP's Budget Collecting and another episode of the Look Back video. Realize it's been a little over a month since we've done one of these. I was on hiatus. I apologize for not letting the people that just watch these videos know specifically. I did post some videos about why I was gone, what's been going on with me. If you've looked at any of my whatever reports, you will know. So we won't go back into any of that here. But we are back. We're going to start doing this. There's going to be some minor format changes this week, and that may continue to evolve this video a little bit as we go forward. But once again, we are here to look back at the hot comics from 6 months ago and see how they're doing in the market. We've been doing this for, minus the last month, over 5 years. We look back at the CBSI Hot Top 10 and the Comic Tom Key Collector Hottest Trending Comics of the Week that were hitting those lists 6 months ago, that were in everyone's minds. People were chasing those books back then, and we see how they're doing now, 6 months later. This week we got 17 books to talk about, and this is really just about trying to learn about what caused these books to hit the list, how are they performing in the market since then, and so we make better decisions about what books we chase, what books we're patient on. So with that, let's dig into the list. This week we had one movie-related news book that was not a Marvel and DC book. So I've always been separating those out. We're going to continue to do that. We had one book that was under that category this week. It was Masters of the Universe #1. This is the first kind of mini-series for Masters of the Universe. And there's rumors that maybe this was actually going to finally come to fruition. A live-action Masters of the Universe movie. I don't think we've heard of anything since. But back then, raw copies were going for $25. A 9.8 jumped all the way up to $340. Now it's a $10 to $20 book. 9.8, $275 to $305. I think there was 3 sales in there is all. Of the regular copy, I think there was a newsstand that went for a little over $400. But yeah, so overall, we're going to call this a down, and I'll be back. The 9.8s have definitely backed up. The raw copies have backed up a little bit. No real news here, no real movement. People keep hoping, but so far, I don't think this one's going to come about. We'll see. Next, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 comic buzz related books. These are books that are hitting because of something going on in the comics. 2 of them also had covers as a part of that. But yeah, these were the buzz books, and we had, what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4 of those dropped. 2 were steady. 1 was up this week. So we got a mixed bag in terms of just buzz related to the comics themselves. Always nice when we get a list that actually has this many books specifically related to buzz of what's going on in the comics as opposed to just a movie or something like that. It's nice to see. We didn't really have 2 covers in here, but nothing really specifically cover related so far. First up, we had 2 copies of Batman #142. First, we had just the regular A cover, and this was the start of Joker Year 1. So people were trying to get in on this, like this might be, an important story arc. Back then, raw copies were going for $10 to $20. Now it's a cover price to $15 book. 9.8 is only going to cost you $50 to $60. So basically, just a little more than what it would have cost to get it slabbed. I said this was going to be a trap. It's so far only been I'll be back, but I don't think there was a ton of love for this Joker Year 1 story. I'm not sure it really lived up to everyone's hopes. Next, we had Batman 142, the Giuseppe Camicoli regular foil variant. So this cool Joker cover was going for $20 to $35 back then. It was a regular variant. It was not like an incentive or anything like that. So that's quite a pretty good price for just a regular variant. Now it's a $5 to $20 book. This one's definitely a trap. 9.8 costs a little more than just the regular A cover, but not a lot. It's $60 with 1 going all the way up to $100, but $60, $70 were where the other sales were at. So we're going to call this one a trap. It's definitely backed up a little more. Hasn't performed as well. Next, we have a bunch of Ultimate books. We got Ultimate Black Panther #1. This is one of our slash covers, the Travel Foreman 1 in 100. Back then, it was going for, this 1 in 100 was going for $300, which is a huge number for 1 in 100. And now it's a $100 to $125 book. That's a big dumpster fire. This one has not maintained at all. Next, we have Ultimate Spider-Man #1, the second print. So everybody's been loving this Ultimate Spider-Man story. I'm waiting for it to come out collected. I'm not buying the single issues here, so hopefully I'll get a chance to read that soon. Raw copies, 15 to 30 back then, a 9.8 pre-sold for 100. Now it's a $5 to $15 book, 9.8, 30 to 50. So that's a dumpster fire compared to what we were paying when it first came out for the second print. This was just a regular second print cover. I don't know. Because I skipped, I didn't actually have a chance to look back and see what the regular A cover of the first print's doing, how well this is holding. My guess is it's backed up a little bit too, but I'll have to go check on that at a later time. Next, we had Ultimate Universe #1. So everybody was all in on this Ultimate Universe. This was just another regular A cover going for $30 to $35 right out the gate. People were chasing this. And this one's still performing really well. It's 20 to 50, so there are some sales that you can do a little better, but there's also some sales going for more. 9.8 is costing you 100 to 150, which is pretty typical for a hot new book, that it gets kind of a little over that $100 range. So we're going to call this one steady and worth it, because a lot of the sales are still in that $30 to $35 range. But there are a few sales you could have done a little better on. We will see how long the love for this new ultimate version of the Marvel Universe lasts. All right, next we have X-Men #27, also related to the Ultimate Universe. This is the first cover appearance of Mae Storm. She doesn't actually appear in the book. She's on the cover, and she was going to be like the key character for the Ultimate X-Men book that was coming out. So people were jumping on this first time she ever appeared on a cover, even though she didn't actually appear in this book. Back then, raw copies were going for $35 to $50. Now it's a $25 to $45 book. Very slight step back, maybe you could say. Overall, we'll call this steady, and I'll be back. 9.8, interestingly enough, will only cost you slightly more than the raw copies. You can't really buy a raw copy and get it slabbed for what you can buy a 9.8 for at $55 to $70. Next, our last buzz/cover book is Wolverine #36, first appearance of Wolverine. This is a character that everybody was like, oh, a cool mashup of characters. At the time, I commented that, did anybody remember Weapon H? But this character has since gotten its own series. So back then it was a $20 book, 9.8 was $200. Now, since the series has come out, it's now $150 to $100 book raw, 9.8, $150 to $200. So this is up, worth it. I won't really call it straight cash, because if you look, the 9.8s are actually going for what they were going for before, slightly less. But obviously the raw copies you could have definitely made some money on. They are definitely going for more than they were back then. It'll be interesting to see as we continue on, whether or not this mashup of characters has any legs, or if it fades away like old Weapon H did. Next, we're going to start moving into MCU. So I think the whole rest of the list is MCU related. It is. I had one of them off my screen, but I was pretty sure. So everything else is going to be MCU related. We continue to spec on MCU books. We continue to pay big money on them, even though their performance is not necessarily translated into any kind of long-term value, but we will see, as always. First up, we had Fantastic Four #209. So this is right around the time we got the FF announcement. So first several books here are FF stuff. And they basically announced the cast. We've seen Herbie in the poster. So that's why everybody was jumping on the first appearance of Herbie here in 209. Raw copies were averaging around $10 back then, 9.8, $350. Now raw copies go from 5 to 30. I would say the average is probably closer to 15 now than 10. 9.8 though is actually going for less, 227 on the most recent 9.8 sale. So we're still going to call it steady and worth it, because the vast majority of sales are those raw copies. But I'm not really going to call it up, even though there are some sales up higher. Even back then when it was averaging 10, there were some $20, $25 sales. So far Herbie's, you could have made a little bit on Herbie on the raw copies, but not a lot. But clearly 9.8 is backed up a little bit. We'll see what this book does as we continue to have to wait for this movie. Hopefully it's a good version of the FF. Next, we have Fantastic Four Life Story #1. The cast was announced, like I said, and this was a potential storyline people were getting the vibes of from the poster and that kind of stuff. Back then, raw copies were going for $5, and 9.8 hit 60. Now it's a $5 to $15 book, which is hard to get anything that's not like at least $5 to $15 that people have any interest in. 9.8, 40 to 70. So we're going to call this steady, and I'll be back. Like, there was no reason to really jump on it then. You didn't really lose anything by being patient. Maybe a little bit if you buy a little on the high end on the raw copies. But yeah, this is a book people are still speculating might be a basis for some of the storyline. I'm just hoping we get good FF. We'll see. Next, we have a couple of cover/MCU books that now that we know the truth, we're all going to laugh at why people were chasing. The first up is Spider-Gwen Smash number 3, the Ricky Yagawa. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I butchered it. I apologize to Ricky. 1 in 25. This is obviously a Dazzler cover. People were still deep in the Dazzler's going to be in Deadpool movie. This cover came out. This 125 was going for 40 to 80. It is now which is between basically between double ratio and triple ratio kind of thing, which usually means it's going to end up around ratio. It's now a $25 to $35 book, just ratio slightly above, and definitely a trap from what it was then. Next, we have Deadpool number 67, the Alvin Lee Dazzler cover, and another one people were like, Dazzler's got to be in the movie. We got to get our cool covers. And now it's a $60 book back then. Now it's a $5 to $15 book. 9.8s are still running just over 100, but not many sales. Overall, definitely a dumpster fire. Next, more Deadpool-related stuff. We got Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe. Everyone's basis for what they thought the Deadpool movie was going to be about. It was not the basis for what the Deadpool movie was about. Raw copies were going for 20, 9.8 went for 215. Now it's a $5 to $20 book, with most of the sales were like 10. Definitely down in a trap on this one. Next, we have New Mutants number 87, first appearance of Cable. People were like, Cable's going to come back. They just haven't shown him. Cable's going to be in Deadpool. He was not. No Deadpool, or no Cable in the Deadpool movie. Back then, Tom had the average of this at 160, 9.8's going for 300. I apparently did not. Normally, when I see an average like this, I go and actually look at sales, because those averages are usually not quite right. Now it's at raw copies are 50 to 125. 9.8's are still setting 3 to 400, so we're just going to stay steady and worth it. Seems to be about around the price range this book typically goes for. Really, it hit the list more for a jump in sales than it did really an increase in price, and it's still kind of sitting in that same range now. Next, we have New X-Men number 114, first appearance of Cassandra Nova. Everybody was, based on the trailer, everybody was pretty sure she was going to be the villain. She was. I have to say, I thought the actress did a fantastic job. Back then, it was a $10 to $20 book, with 9.8 going for 100 to 175. Movie was a huge success. Everyone was happy with her portrayal. She was the big villain of the movie, and it's still just a couple weeks after the movie, down from what it was 6 months ago before the movie. Raw copies are now 5 to 15, 9.8, 70 to 120, down, and I'll be back. It just, once again, should reinforce the peak on a lot of these books are the trailer or the initial announcement are often higher than even when the movie comes out, even if the character appears, even if everyone thinks they do a great job and it's a good performance. Still, quite more often than not, the highest these books ever reach is when we get the initial announcement or the trailer. Next, we got 2 other books here related to Deadpool, the Deadpool Super Bowl trailer. We got Secret Wars number 2, first appearance of God Emperor Doom. It appeared based on the next book we're going to talk about. I should have put those in reverse order. Just realized. But anyway, raw copies for this was $10, 9.885. Now it's a $10 to $15 book. So you're like, oh, it's up a little bit on the raw side. 9.8 though sale. I went for like 25 with figure and shipping. It was like 35 total. So basically not even the price to send it off to CGC and get it slabbed. So yeah. Steady, and I'll be back, I guess, because most of the sales are raw, but that's not a good return on a 9.8 for sure. Next, we got Secret Wars number 5, which has God Emperor Doom on the cover and was in the trailer. Like, you could see this comic in the trailer, so that's why everybody was jumping on the previous book. This one jumped up to a $20 to $50 book, 9.8 going for $150. And yeah, there was zero payoff for this in the movie or at all. So I don't know what was going on there. Now it's a $10 to $20 book, 9.8, 65 to 100. And my guess is this continues to come down and it's already a dumpster fire. So yeah, so that is this week's list. I want to thank you guys for watching and being patient with me while I was gone. Hopefully we're going to get back on a regular schedule and we will catch you next time. Later.